When I imported my Sega Saturn from Japan, I got a lot of games with it. One of them that really caught my eye was Deep Fear. What a wicked cool box art. Some sort of weird bloody mass, kinda looks like a heart, seemingly submerged in water. Looking at the back, I see some weird creepy hand and I'm sold. I could tell this was gonna have some fun FMV cutscenes. I opened up the manual, taking in the visuals and all the characters, and why the fuck is the protagonist's head so small? I had to do a double take when I first saw this. His head's so tiny. I love the names of the characters too. Like his name is John Mayer. But we also got Mookie Carver, Sharon State, and Clancy Dawkins. It's great. Wait, Clancy? In the game they say Clancy, so that's a kind of wild spelling mistake. I guess that's pretty common when translating a name from English to Japanese and then Japanese to English again. Sometimes L's and R's and stuff just get mixed around. The game was developed by Sega themselves through their AM7 division, alongside System SOCOM. It was released on July 16th, 1998 in Japan, which was just over 4 months away from the Sega Dreamcast launch, which means that the Sega Saturn was going to be outdated pretty soon. The PAL version released 8 days later, and was the last Sega published title for the Saturn in that region. It never came out in the States. It was going to release shortly after the other versions, but Sega just didn't think it would do well, as the console was already well on its way out. So my guess is that they chose to focus on pushing the Dreamcast harder in its place. It's a shame because that means that the PAL version is the only one that's fully translated to English. Thankfully, the voice acting and all of the menus are in English, so there's only some descriptions and extra story stuff that you can read that's entirely in Japanese. So as long as you don't mind using a guide sometimes, the Japanese version is very playable. Anyways, time to pop this into the console and see what we find. Starting the game, we see a space capsule landing in water. The Navy is confused by what this is, showing that it's something that they are not involved with. The capsule slowly sinks before being retrieved by a submarine called the Sea Fox, and is loaded onto a large underwater facility. Our protagonist, Emergency Rescue Services Chief John Mayer, is sulking over a photo of someone named Stella, before being radioed by Mookie, telling us that someone's drowning and he has to come help. And here we get some absolutely beautiful voice acting. If you thought Resident Evil 1 was silly, this game is downright goofy.
Chief!
What's going on?
April Fools! Did you forget it's April Fool's Day?
You know, we don't have time for these fun and games.
Sorry, Chief. The mood around the big table had been kinda stuffy lately. So, I had to play a joke before going crazy.
What do you mean, stuffy?
You were just transferred here a week ago, so you may not have noticed, but it's been especially stuffy lately. The army people have been really uptight.
After that epic prank, we get this golden dialogue.
Sea Fox, play ball. This time Mermaid may be waiting for you.
Yeah, I wish. If only they were real mermaids.
Yeah.
But suddenly things go wrong and the Sea Fox crashes onto the seafloor. We're called into a meeting with our boss Clancy, who introduces us to the designer of the Sea Fox.
Crash? What happened?
We don't know yet. I asked Dubois, the designer, to come too.
Oh, there's no problem with my Sea Fox system. No accident should have occurred. Oh!
That's one of the fucking funniest voices I've ever heard in a video game. I mean, the fact that this is a horror game and we're meant to take this seriously makes it so much better.
This is terrible. My masterpiece is ruined. Oh, what am I gonna do?
You can just hear his voice straining to keep that pitch. This to me seems like just terrible voice direction. So we head back to Mookie, whose whole personality is baseball.
How's the little shark?
Best conditions. Like the Yankees in '96. Okay, Mookie, let's slide on into home.
And being the emergency rescue service like we are, we go to check out the affected area. And we get to take in the jamming soundtrack. Honestly, the soundtrack is one of my favorite aspects of this game. It's such a vibe. Composer Kenji Kawai is responsible for bringing this banging OST. He's worked on stuff like Ghost in the Shell, Gundam, Higurashi, Kamen Rider, and much more. As we get to the Navy area that was hit by the Sea Fox, we see the oxygen level is low. This is a unique gameplay mechanic the game has. You see a counter in the top right showing how much oxygen there currently is in a room. When you fire shots, that also uses oxygen. If an area runs out of air, you gotta put on a breathing mask, which can be refilled at various stations. Those stations can also be used to refill the air in the room that you're currently in. It's an interesting mechanic that makes a lot of sense for the setting, and it makes it stand apart from other survival horror games. Moving on, we encounter an injured man.
Kill me, please.
What?
Kill me, please!
What's this?
Now it's time for the combat. You can raise your gun and aim it in a general direction, and the auto aim will usually do the job, but I recommend using the lock on. Otherwise, it's hard to tell when you're actually aiming at an enemy. I did encounter a few instances where I was totally pointing my gun at someone, but it just didn't hit them. I wouldn't say it feels as good as Resident Evil, but it's not bad at all. Speaking of Resident Evil, it's very obvious that this game was trying to do its own take on Resident Evil's style of survival horror. The pre-rendered backgrounds, the tank controls, inventory management, limited ammo and health supplies and so on. It's hard not to call it a Resident Evil clone, but this game has plenty of original stuff, so I wouldn't call it a ripoff. It's just a unique take on a lot of the same ideas. Anyways, after the first monster encounter, we call in to report the situation, but they don't take the whole monster thing seriously, so we're told to find a doctor. So we do, and her name is Gina Weisberg. We wake her up and this happens.
We'll be back at the big table soon.
I was so confused the first time. This random chimp is just hanging out. We bring her back and we are introduced to Denny.
Whoa, your boyfriend? Just kidding.
Denny doesn't believe the whole monster thing either. And also Gina messes up her line read.
I'll go to Commander Clancy's room.
There's a lot of moments like this in the game, so I'm not going to show all of them, but just know that it's a constant thing for there to be just minor mistakes in dialogue. I'm assuming it wasn't caught because the voice director just wasn't fluent. But it adds a sort of fun, awkward quality to the dialogue that I think is really great. We're then told a torpedo from the crashed Sea Fox is about to be launched at the base we're in, and everyone goes into full alert. The air system gets blown up, and we're then told someone is operating the missiles from within and aiming them at us. So as a former SEAL team member, we're the ones for the job. We have to get there and deactivate it. This is where the game starts getting a lot more fun and intense. The air is limited, and there are monsters everywhere, but we have to explore the Sea Fox before it kills everyone. When it comes to health and ammo, it isn't hard to keep your supply stocked. For some reason, every supply area you come across have unlimited ammo. You can only bring so much ammo with you, but if you're ever low, you can just go to a supply station, which aren't hard to find. So ammo conservation isn't much of an issue, which I think is a bit of a shame. I like managing limited resources. It's part of what keeps me so engaged when playing a survival horror game. Later on, when you have multiple weapons, you can switch to those when you're low, although you can only carry 2 weapons at a time. But the shotgun is so good and you can carry so much ammo, I pretty much used it for like more than half the game. Also, health conservation is too easy. Every first aid kit you find gives you an unlimited amount of blue healing sprays, which heal a bit of health. You can only carry 8 at a time of each type, but as long as you're not healing all the time, I didn't feel like it was something I needed to pay attention to, and I just wish I had to put some more effort into conserving my resources. When it comes to the puzzles in this game, they're pretty simple. Usually you just gotta find the right key for the right door, or look for one item to get through somewhere. There aren't any Silent Hill or Resident Evil style puzzles where you need to be sitting there trying to figure something out. It's pretty simple stuff, which can be a positive or a negative depending on your taste. I don't mind it, but there is a lot of backtracking and long distances and going up and down the same elevators to just get one item and having to make a long trek back. This gets a lot worse in the second half of the game. But with the story and characters being as fun as they are, it's well worth it. The ambience is fantastic and the pre-rendered backgrounds look so good. The FMVs are great for 1998, and I just love this era of CGI. It just has such a vibe to it, and you already know I love that soundtrack. Besides, even if the gameplay isn't the greatest, it still offers fun moments and plenty of tension to be felt. It'll scratch any survival horror itch. After killing a boss and disabling the missiles, the Sea Fox suddenly pushes itself towards a giant chasm, so we have to escape, and the music just goes fucking nuts. Goddamn, they didn't have to go so hard with the soundtrack, but I'm so glad they did. We jump out the torpedo chute and get rescued by Mookie. So along with another survivor we saved earlier, we head back to the main base. If you're interested in playing the game for yourself, I'd recommend skipping to this part of the video, because I just want to rant about how wild the story gets. If you're interested in playing this game on an actual Saturn, I recommend getting a Japanese copy and using the guide I linked below. If you want to play it in English, then I highly recommend emulating it. Otherwise, you'll have to spend like $400+ on a PAL copy. Alright, so we head back to the base, but we're told that we can't use the CCD entrance that we used before because the SEAL team are there. So we have to go around the facility. Once we get there, John takes a look around while the survivor begins to turn. The CGI might be very dated, but the music, man, it does so much work here. It's beautiful. So Mookie sinks to the bottom with the vessel, but the monster comes back up for us. So we take it down, and after avenging Mookie, we're told that we have to get back to where Clancy is. But since we're on the other side of the facility, we have a long way to go. After exploring and killing a lot of enemies, and having to do a weird timed button press puzzle, we eventually meet up with Dr. Gina again. She tells us that she took one of the monster's cells and injected it into a mouse's cell, and we watch it take over the cell to transform it. Then Gina asks us to take a blood test.
Sorry. I have had this cold since last night.
Cold? Have you been attacked by a creature? Any other symptoms besides a cold?
I've been attacked a couple of times. Really, no other symptoms.
Can I draw some blood?
Am I being taken over, too?
I don't know, but it just hit me that you've been attacked and haven't changed. If you don't change, we may have a lead.
So we return there a bit later, and we're told that the creature's cells won't eat other cells if there's a virus in them. So because of the cold virus in John's body, the creature cells are rejected. There's something about that I think is so funny. Just a normal cold is keeping this bacteria away. But I guess it's a decent explanation for why he doesn't get infected. We also find out that the monsters are weak to oxygen, which explains why the air system was targeted by the missile. So we know that the monsters are at least somewhat intelligent. We get what we need to get closer to the CCD area and enter the apartment block. We're attacked by weird creatures, but we're saved by a woman named Anna.
Do I look like a monster?
In a way, yes.
Anna tells us that she's looking for her bulldog named Rambo, so she won't come with John for now. Though it doesn't take long for us to find the dog, and we're given an access card to get further ahead. We have to get a blowtorch, which it turns out someone else currently possesses.
I was hiding with there, a monster. Have you come to save me?
Yes, but I have to return to the CCD area. For that, I need your torch.
Excuse me, but I can't trust you because you might be a monster. Let's make a deal.
A deal?
So we have to download some data onto a disk for him. Once we do that, we can reunite with the others. We meet SEAL Team Captain McCoy, who knows John very well. McCoy was his former commander when John was still in the SEAL team, and John was engaged to his sister, Stella.
It was my first day off in a while. The weather was pretty nice. There was a storm coming, but I was confident in my yachting skills, and I ignored Colonel McCoy's warning. We took Stella out on the ocean. The yacht was swept into the storm. To a storm, the yacht was like a leaf in the wind. Stella was thrown out into the ocean. I tried to save her. There was nothing I could do.
We go to see Dubois, who isn't too happy. He's got a secret camera installed in the meeting room and shows us a conversation between Clancy and the SEAL team.
Oh, they're full of it, those Navy muscle heads, shutting me out and starting this mess.
Air unit area roundup battle.
Oh, it's dangerous to fight there. Oh.
Why?
Oh, if the air system is broken, not only will there be no air, but there will be a pressure buildup and the building will collapse.
Damn.
We've got to tell Clancy and make him stop.
We explain it to Clancy and are told to call the SEAL team back. We currently can't reach them, so we have to go on foot. As we take off in the gondola, heading towards the SEAL team, haunting music plays while we watch the SEAL team get slaughtered. We explore the area but find no survivors, though it seems someone took our gondola back to the base, so we have to find a key to make it return to us. We discover that we were too late to stop anything and a bomb had already been planted, so we have to rush back. The huge explosion causes a jet up above to get knocked loose. It falls down and goes straight into the energy unit area. We're told that McCoy of the SEAL team returned earlier, before us, so he was the one who used our gondola to get back. Then we get a message saying that there might be a meltdown and we have to stop it. We also have to gather all the remaining survivors so that they can evacuate. But Sharon won't leave until the dolphins are set free. She doesn't want them to die when the base falls apart. And Gina won't leave without Anthony, the chimp. She claims that he understands her, which is interesting. We find Danny, who uses the blowtorch to open a door. And he also tells us to give Anna a message.
If you see Anna, could you tell her that she doesn't need to act so macho? She's cute if she's quiet.
Tell her yourself.
If I could, I wouldn't be asking you.
It's just such a weird thing to say, and it just has like a kind of misogynistic vibe to it. I don't like it. Shortly after, we tell Anna about this epic message, and this is what she has to say about it.
That rude geek.
She helps us set up a suit for deep underwater diving called Big Jim, which is a funny name, but we need an oxygen tank for it. After a lot of backtracking and minor puzzle solving, we then go talk to Anna again.
My body feels strange. Could you turn on the light?
Now we have to take her down. More and more of the people we meet just end up dying, but John just has to push through. As we descend into the water, we move through a small area before meeting up again with Dubois, who tells us we have to find C4 to blow up a wall and send water into the energy system to cool it down, otherwise it'll melt down. On our way to get the C4, we come across McCoy. He forgives John and admits that he also blamed himself for not stopping him and Stella from going out on that trip, showing that both of them blamed themselves for what happened. And he then tells John to leave, and that he intends to blow himself up once John is gone. And so we go, and soon after it explodes. The music here is just wonderful. It does so much to set the mood. It's so dramatic. We head back inside and we help Dubois fix the energy system, but he tells us to go on ahead. He's realized that he's also turning, so he will stay behind while the area floods. As we make our escape, his monstrous new form starts to chase us. After getting away from him or killing him, we meet Sharon again. And as soon as we tell her we have the means to free the dolphin, she runs ahead excitedly and just instantly gets herself killed. Considering how much weight all other death scenes have had so far, this one just felt so off to me. It's very clear throughout the game that she has a crush on John, and becomes immediately jealous when Gina and John talk. But Sharon is just like one of the least interesting characters in the whole game. After we free the dolphin, we meet up with Denny and Gina, and we're told that because the air unit is broken, the atmospheric pressure is going nuts, and everything is going to collapse soon. We go to the escape area, but as we get there, Gina has been knocked out, and Anthony, the chimp, is freaking out. Turns out Clancy had taken the escape pod for himself, saying that his life is worth more than anyone else. But then... So they resort to plan B, going to the Navy area, which is detachable from the rest of the base, with the intent to drive it away safely and call for help. Denny goes to start the elevator, but we meet an old friend.
Anna, you...
Denny barely manages to push the button, and we grab Rambo the dog and jump down to Gina and Anthony as we take the elevator. As John and Gina drive off, the base begins to crumble. They escape the worst of it, but they're still flipped upside down. After John and Gina wake back up, we get this scene.
Anthony's gone.
Why do you worry about Anthony so much?
Anthony was always alone. I grew up in an orphanage. I could never count on someone and had no real friends. Anthony's like that too. He wanted friends. I know that feeling well. We're alike in a lot of ways, and we understand each other. When I found Anthony, I felt like I had somebody. I wasn't alone anymore.
He'll come back.
We have to find parts to fix a radio and call for help, but they just tell us that we have to sit tight. Frustrated, John looks for another way out. He comes across a space capsule from the opening cutscene, as well as a computer with documents on something called Deep Blue. The research paper explains that there is a bacteria that all primates have, and they discover that this bacteria is affected by radiation, and in certain radiation in space can cause this bacteria to mutate. And this document with all this vital information was signed by Gina Weisberg herself. She appears behind us, and John demands an explanation.
40 years ago, as an experiment, Anthony was shot up into space and returned to Earth. He was in a near-death state. It was almost like hibernation. Commander Clancy was the leader of the pod recovery plan, the Deep Blue plan. He saw Anthony's condition and thought of something.
What?
If Anthony's body's mystery could be solved, then it would be possible to develop a cold sleep apparatus making longer space travel possible.
Cold sleep?
Clancy completed this idea very quickly, so he could again try getting into Washington. If the cold sleep system worked, he could get his promotion and fame. So he started a research program.
You knew this and let Clancy use you for his egomaniac plans?
If the plan succeeded, not only would extended space travel be possible, people suffering from incurable diseases could be helped. As a scientist, I felt I had to be part of this.
John says they have to kill Anthony because he carries this mutated bacteria, but Gina won't let that happen. She suddenly begins to transform and begs for you to help her, but it's too late. After you shoot this weird blob entity that she's now become, it starts to change even more. I was kinda just stunned how strange her final form is. I don't even know what to make of it. It's like ethereal. She's also really fast and hard to hit. This fight is a real challenge. But eventually we take her down and she gives us the key to self-destruct the base and tells us to initiate it and then escape by getting into the space capsule, as it has a flotation device that will get us to the surface. And so we do. And we get another one of those classic survival horror tropes where we have to escape before everything blows up. We get to the capsule, but Anthony tries to go with us. Gina holds him back and watches John leave with Rambo the dog. And the credits roll as John gets sent to the surface and eventually gets rescued. What a game. I mean, I didn't know what to expect when I got it originally, since it was just a part of a big bundle of games. I knew nothing about it, but I'm so happy I gave it a shot. I'm glad I experienced it. Yes, it's clunky and the resource management is way too easy, and yeah, the latter half of the game is like 60% backtracking, but the story is so fun, the atmosphere is amazing, the monsters look cool, the backgrounds look great. The voice acting is hilarious and the music goes hard as fuck. I strongly recommend giving this game a chance. It really does a good job doing something unique with the survival horror genre, and I think it's the perfect length, around 6 hours or so. There's also some optional cutscenes and items to go back for if you want. There's also some VHS tapes you can play. Just a lot of stuff to do in this game. Deep Fear is a hidden gem of a survival horror game, and it's a shame to see that it's still locked to the Sega Saturn, and that there's no official way to play it in North America. The North American release has been leaked because it was so close to launching it was basically finished, but there's no official way to get a North American copy, and the game has yet to be re-released as far as I know. It's a weird one, but if you can get past the clunkiness, it's well worth playing. Anyways, thanks for watching.